Some people say that Classic WoW is a simple game, however there's quite a lot of hidden mechanics in the game that you are never told about. These are mechanics in the game that can give you a huge advantage over other players and that the best players in Classic WoW are very familiar with. So with that being said, here are 5 hidden tricks in Classic WoW. Starting off at number 5 is leeway. So you guys may have heard of the term leeway before, but not know exactly what this means. Essentially, leeway is a mechanic in the game that is never told to you by Blizzard at any stage. However, it exists at all times. It essentially allows you to double the range of your melee attacks. This sounds absolutely broken, however this is only achieved with specific circumstances between you and another target. When a player is standing still, they have a normal hitbox, however when 2 targets are moving at the same time, their hitbox basically doubles in size, allowing you to do melee attacks from a much farther distance. The footage that you are seeing now is a perfect example of this. When the 2 orcs are standing still, they are out of melee range, however when they start moving around, they can actually start hitting each other despite the fact that they're no closer together than when they were standing still. This is a prime example of what the leeway mechanic is. You may be wondering why this is actually in the game. You see, when Blizzard were developing Classic WoW, they basically built the game around the times where most people had really bad internet connections and having a laggy connection to WoW was the norm. So they basically created the leeway mechanic to give the illusion of a much less laggier game. If they didn't have this back in the day, the lag that most people had would make it a lot harder to chase down targets and attack them at the same time. And this is a weird holdover from the old clients in World of Warcraft that are still in 2019. So if you're a melee class in PvP, you essentially never want to stop moving, since that will drastically decrease your melee attack's range. Okay, so number 4 on this list is avoiding Daze. So I'm sure a lot of you guys find Daze to be a very frustrating mechanic. This is essentially when you're walking around the world and you get attacked by a mob, you have a high chance of entering a dazed state. Daze basically reduces your movement speed by about 50%, and a lot of people die by this. Since when you get dazed and multiple mobs attack you while you're trying to run away, it makes the chance of escaping that encounter alive very low. However, there is a way to actually avoid it. So if you guys don't know, the Daze mechanic only triggers if you're not facing the target. If you are facing the target, you won't have a chance of being dazed. And this makes sense. When you're attacking a target while facing it, you never get dazed, but as soon as you turn your back to it and try to run away, then you get dazed. However, you can actually run away from a mob while facing it at the same time. By jumping to face the mob when it's about to attack you, while moving in a certain direction, you can completely avoid the chance of being dazed while running away from an enemy. I can't tell you how many times using this trick has saved me in the open world while I was trying to level up. Strafe jumping is literally a lifesaver in World of Warcraft Classic. If any of you guys didn't know about this before, you can try it out yourself. It's a bit tricky to get the hang of this movement, but if you can do it correctly, you can escape from most mobs without dying to being slowed down by the Daze effect. Okay, so number 3 on this list is Tauren hitboxes. So I'm sure if you read the Tauren racial abilities on the character select screen, nowhere does it talk about Taurens having a double-sized hitbox. But it does. If you look at this footage of these 2 Taurens attacking each other, you can see the range that they can attack with their melee weapons without leeway is extremely large. They essentially have twice the melee range of any other class, which is pretty insane to think about. This is something to keep in mind, because if you combine the Tauren's massive hitbox with the leeway mechanic, you can essentially do melee attacks from a super far distance, almost outside the range of a Frost Nova. It is that large. This looks like a glitch, but this is actually an intended part of the game that a lot of people forgot about. Although that being said, Taurens are the only example of a different hitbox. Every other race in the game has the exact same hitbox. So a human, undead, troll, orc, and even a gnome have the same size hitbox except for a Tauren. It's kind of odd that this is the case. And it's worthwhile considering if you want to play a Tauren warrior, because this is definitely a big advantage. If you're playing in PvP, you'll be able to attack mages trying to run away from you from that further a distance. So essentially this is like a hidden racial that Taurens have that nowhere in the game does it actually tell you exists. So Taurens are actually better at PvP than most people would think, as a larger hitbox as a melee class is going to be an advantage, however a larger hitbox as a ranged class is going to be a disadvantage. So you might want to keep this in mind if you're thinking about playing a Tauren character. Okay, so number 2 on this list is the 5-second rule. For those of you that are new to the game, you may have come across a stat called Spirit. This is a primary stat in Classic WoW, however this doesn't actually exist in BFA. So what does Spirit actually do? If I was asking someone that never played Classic WoW, they would probably guess that this would increase your healing power. And to be honest, a lot of veteran Classic WoW players probably don't know how the stat exactly works. If you go onto your character page, all it says is that it increases your health and mana regeneration. And that's it. It doesn't go into any detail or any breakdown as to how this happens. That's all the info you get. Which is a little bit different to how much detail you get on the character page in the modern version of the game, but in Classic you're pretty much left to guess what all the spirit gear actually does. So the mechanics of the stat is actually pretty interesting. The health and mana regeneration that it says that it gives you only triggers after 5 seconds from using a spell. Meaning, while you're continuously casting spells, you don't actually get any benefit from this mana or health regeneration. However, after the 5 seconds has passed, you will actually see the benefits of your spirit. In essence, this is called the 5-second rule, which is known by some high-level Classic players that are playing mana-based classes. Classes like the Priest will take full advantage of this by front-loading their spells like Shadow Word Pain and Mind Blast, and then they'll just continuously shoot their wand while their mana regenerates beyond the 5-second rule. Even if you have a lot of spirit gear, you won't actually get any benefit while you're in combat in most cases. You actually have to stop using your spells before you see any regeneration. But how much regeneration does spirit actually give you? As I mentioned before, the stats on the character page doesn't actually tell you. So I did an experiment to see just how much regeneration you got from spirit. I unequipped all of my gear with plus spirit and I counted how much health and mana I got per tick. So I'm playing on a 26 shaman that has a base spirit of 51, and I noticed that I was getting 25 mana per tick and 12 health per tick. However, when I equip all of my gear that gives me a 23 bonus spirit for a total of 74, I got about 30 mana per tick and 15 health per tick. So that gear that gave me 23 bonus spirit only gave me 5 extra mana per tick and 3 health per tick. This is quite underwhelming results. And I think it's fair to say that I could do better by getting some gear with stats that would actually increase my DPS, allowing me to kill more mobs. The spirit on my character really doesn't do that much. However, that being said, some classes scale better with spirit than others. For example, priests have a talent that turns a percentage of their spirit into healing power. But in general, for a caster DPS, spirit really isn't that important. There is another stat in Classic WoW which is called mana per 5. You usually see this stat line with some high level gear, and as you can guess, this gives you a set amount of mana per 5 seconds, which is separate from the calculations done with spirit. Mana per 5 seconds gives you a mana regeneration regardless of the 5-second rule, so if you're going to be continuously casting spells, you will still get the benefit from it. This stat is a lot better for most healing classes, and for my class, which is a shaman, as I gear up for raiding, mana per 5 is going to be the focus of my gear. Okay, so number 1 on this list is bonus group experience. So you guys may have heard of the group leveling meta that people use to level up quickly in Classic WoW. So why does dungeon farming work so well in Classic WoW? The answer to this is in the formula. You see, when you kill a mob in Classic WoW, the XP you get goes through a bunch of multipliers. And believe it or not, the more people you have in the group, the higher amount of XP you get spread across the group is. To explain this better, the way to think about it is, if you kill a mob by yourself as a solo character, you are going to get 100% of the experience. With 2 people, it will be 100% of the experience split across 2 people. However, when you get to a group above 3 people, that is when the total amount of experience increases. When you get into a group of 3 people, the XP you get per mob is 116%. With 4 people, it goes up to 130%, and with 5 people, it goes up to 140% per mob. So essentially, you're getting 40% extra experience by being in a 5-man group from each mob that you kill, which is then spread across your group members. This sounds kind of weird, and you guys may have thought that the XP you get would never be changed except for just being equally split across all members. However, this is not the case. People have found out that the amount of XP you get actually increases depending on how many people you get in a group. The overall volume of XP you get by being in a dungeon farming group is going to be a lot more. This is why dungeon farming groups are so successful at getting people to level up quickly. They are essentially getting 40% extra experience per mob, compared to only getting 100% experience by killing a mob solo. That in combination with a 5-man group having a healer, a tank, everybody is benefiting each other with their own strengths and weaknesses. So if you wondered why you get such good XP per hour when you're in a dungeon group, this is the reason. It is not your imagination, you are literally getting more XP than you would normally. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel. This is vaulty, signing out.